Mwah. All right, everybody, welcome to the next Truckification mod, and we are doing our air intake, which is right here. Vanna White. So this is the AEM Induction Systems Dry Flow Performance Air Filter for the 2024 Santa Cruz Night, my AKA Nightmare Edition. This was recommended from a couple of different people on the subreddit for the Hyundai Santa Cruz and my puppy. And yeah, let me open it up, and then we're gonna go through. I'm gonna do some painting so it kind of matches the previous painting we did in the engine bay there. And yeah, hopefully this will be a fun video, and I'm gonna try to make it shorter than what I usually do. Okay, right off the bat, opening it up, and it comes with a license frame, and although it is like the thinnest, cheapest piece of plastic I've ever seen, I actually do kind of like the aesthetic. Just black with like a simple AEM on it. Again, feels like this must cost them a penny to produce with just the way it feels flimsy, but I like it. Of course, figured it would come with some stickers, and we've got a manual, which is great because the last thing I installed on the Nightmare Edition was those rails, and those did not come with a manual, and that sucked. Alright, so we've got the, I would assume this is the air filter, we've got some rubber stuff, we've got some hosey stuff, we've got the casing for it, which we are going to be painting. So the first part of this video, if you want to skip it, is going to be painting this to match our aesthetic that we already have going on inside the Santa Cruz. Now, I know these are truck parts, but I do have a little bit of an OCD brain, and I don't like this. These are pretty deep scratches caused from this being packaged like this, and I'm guessing just from bouncing around in the packaging. Yeah, I don't like that. It's not a big deal, but I don't like it. All right, also in our box, we get some instructions, like we talked about. I like that. And we get this little dyno spec sheet, which basically everybody that I talk to says, like from Reddit and stuff, said that you don't actually get a performance upgrade. It's more about the sound, which is what I'm looking for anyway. But we'll inventory these parts and make sure that we've got everything and that we're good to go so that I can move on to painting. All right, so we're gonna start up our painting, and this is just gonna be a base layer because we're gonna be hydro dipping it. I know that on YouTube you didn't see that. I believe it's on my Instagram and TikTok how I did the hydro dipping for the other parts, but basically we're just gonna be putting down a base layer that I think will help elevate the hydro dip once we get done with that, and that's gonna be like dark colors, and then I'm gonna have a bright yellow. This is gonna be the main centerpiece when it goes into the thing. That's mostly what you're gonna be looking at. So everything else is just gonna get like lightly done, but we're really gonna be focusing on this guy right here. Let's go on an adventure. All right, so for our little pre-base, we're gonna be doing glacier, yellow, and purple. Trust me, I've done this before. Also, hopefully it just adheres to the black and I don't have to do anything. So I might have to do some white as a base layer to get the colors to stick, but we'll find out right now if it's gonna work. And we don't go too crazy with the purple, especially because a lot of purple is going to get used when we actually do the hydro dip. So this is like getting a base layer of other colors to pop through when we do the black, purple, and dark gray hydro dip. Okay, so while our tank fills up, let me take you through our little color pattern we're going to be doing. Now I've switched to matte dark pearl, matte black, and still that gloss purple for our pattern color to go on top of this. And we'll be putting it down because this is edge, kind of putting it down and rolling it into the tank to hopefully give ourselves the best amount of coverage for the pattern. And then we're just waiting for that to fill up with water. So do you want to try your hardest to keep debris out of it? Just because if you have like a lot of debris
that will obviously end up in your product. This tank's pretty clean, so we're gonna get everything ready so that we can move fast. And yeah. And we are kind of built up a little bit of like excess black in that area. So I'm just gonna quickly sort of spritz it with like a layer of purple right there. I'll kind of correct that just a little bit. Then I usually take a leaf blower to blow off the water bubbles, because you don't want all those water bubbles can trap the paint, and then later on if you like touch that water bubble area, it'll rip up the paint a little bit.
All right, so over on my tickety talk, because I had to give them something too, I did a hydro dip for this part right here. And that's obviously going to be where your filter comes through, sits in here. Air is going to come in this way. This is basically pressed against the front of the engine well, so you don't really see, and then the cover goes here. So you actually don't ever see any of this part really. You really won't see that corner. And honestly, you won't see the bottom and you won't see the back. But I am going to do the back regardless. And I am going to do this little corner, but the rest of this isn't going to get done. And then I'm just going to put some tape to protect this, because whenever you hydro dip stuff, you got to be aware of like your angles. So I dipped in flat on this side, and you can see how far up that went on the other side. You can do some rolling techniques, but for the most part, it's easiest to just sort of go in flat with stuff. But so I'm gonna tape this up, and then I'll show you guys. I'm gonna get a little bit creative with this. I might add some red on this side just because I'm curious what this pattern will look like when it also has a little bit of like red in the hydro dip mix. But yeah. So again, this is the side that I don't even think it's going to be able to be shown, but it was nice and flat, so I just wanted to experiment with this red. And the red's very piercing. That's why I did some black over the top, just to try to like deaden that brightness a little bit. I think in the future the red is a really good thing to go underneath, like how the yellow is underneath, but not so much for on top, at least in this color scheme. Nice Seattle, Washington State rainy day. I'm not in Seattle. I don't know why I said that. It's just easier for frame of reference. And as I hit play, the rain started coming down even harder. But here is our finished product. That is going to be the top. That is the side. This will be visible. This interior, I don't think will actually be all that visible. So I just, hit it with like a generic, just purple over the top. This side also won't really particularly be visible, because that side should be facing kind of up against here. So if you're on the back side, you'll be able to see it, but you won't really be able to see it from looking down at the front, I don't think. So that's why we went with like the experimental like red that we already talked about. So yeah, that's going to be going into here. I will take you through a little bit of that process. Not I was planning on starting it now, but it obviously just started raining even harder. So, but we will go through this process, and then we'll hit you with the before and afters on the appearance and the sound. So the very first instruction I'm going to be ignoring says to turn off ignition and disconnect the negative battery terminal. And it talks about finding your anti-theft code. typically supplied in the owner's manual. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about if I disconnect the negative battery terminal, but also disconnecting the negative battery terminal. I mean, here's the battery terminal. Obviously, the positive is the one covered up that I would assume says positive, and I would assume that that's the negative then. But I don't feel like doing it. So the actual first step we're going to be doing is taking this off. Now, I do have trim tools for this, but I always find that a flat tip screwdriver works better. So step 1 / step 2, pop and remove. That was shockingly easy to do. The next step that it talks about is removing these right here by depressing them. I'm actually going to just work my way around some of the other steps, like loosening up. I'm sure we've got some 10mm bolts, and we've got these hose clamp lines, just getting everything like that kind of loosened up. So let me check what the next step is all about. So like I said, I'm just going to work my way around and get these hose clamps basically ready for removal. And I know we're going to be removing some stuff. I can already see right here where this is mounted to a 10mm here, so, or you can't really probably see that, but right down there, if you can see it, you got a 10mm. So like I said, I'm just going to work my way around and pre-loosen some stuff. And right on cue, getting absolutely trolled by that Washington State weather. It has begun raining pretty heavily again, so I'm going to move I'm just going to keep trying to power through. All right, next step is to spread the retaining spring securing the charge tube to the intercooler and then disconnect the tube from the cooler. I don't think I have a spring tool on me. So that step 4 was, this is the spring thing. And I can't figure out how to get that off there. I know it wraps around to the other side. So I'm just gonna skip that step, and I'll come back to it when it I'll come back to it, I guess. Okay, I also don't know what this is or understand this step, so I'm just gonna go to this step, which is loosen the hose clamps, which I already did, and remove the factory tube. That part I do understand. Well, good news is that the wetter and darker it gets out here, the more and more I become ultra frustrated with what I'm doing. That step said to simply take the hose clamps off and remove this, but it's not going. Oh, well, I guess there it goes. There she goes. Okay. Now I'm cooking. Now I see more of what needs to happen here to get this out. So let's go back to that step 3 stuff. Removing this, set it off to the side, and remove this. Okay. Okay, and then that's got to come. I see what's connected here on the bottom. That might have been that previous step that I didn't understand. So after you get rid of these, right, you're trying to lift this guy out of here, and you've got this stuff connected on the bottom. That is what I'm guessing that previous step was about. I couldn't really see that until I started taking it out, so we'll get that stuff disconnected down there. I finally got this spring off of this, where you see my finger right there. But that did not make it any easier for me to reach the stuff behind there. I'm not gonna lie, taking all these like first handful of steps, the first 10 steps, taking all this stuff apart is kind of a bitch if you've never done it before. This right here, what I've learned is get some needle noses and pinch that, and that's gonna come off a lot easier. So you pull that clamp down on the hose. God damn it! Fucking piece of shit. After you've pulled that spring clip thing down, that hose, you can pull it off. It just takes some finessing, and once you pull it off, this whole thing, now look at that, that's the old one, that's coming out of there. We should now comfortably at be at step 7, which is to remove the front air filter hosing mount bolt, and then remove the rear air filter hosing mounting bolt shown. Remove air filter housing from vehicle. I take it back. That's what we just did. That's this thing. I'm almost positive that's this thing. We are on to this right here. Remove the bolt that secures the ejector fitting to the air filter housing, and then remove the fitting. And that's going to be this thingamabob right here. Okay, so next install it onto the AEM tube. So that's going to be taking this guy and putting it onto that guy. Super easy. So now it's demanding that I cut this thing into 5.5, 15, 17, and 21 inch long sections. Pre-do that shit. AEM, pre-do that. Do I look like Captain fucking Arts and Crafts? Well, I sure hope we measured them right, because you couldn't pre-measure them for me! Alright, you probably guessed the next step. Take them from there and put them onto there. Alright, squeezing that on was a real pain in the arse. You can see some of the places I messed up inside that ring there. The gapping is a little bit off on some of it. A little too much here, a little short here. You know what would have helped? If you had just pre-cut them with like an actual... Like, I had to use kitchen shears. You think I'm carrying around fucking tin snips everywhere I go? No. No, I am not. Alright, so your next step is to install the mounting stud onto the heat shield using provided hardware. Hello, puppy. If you look at this, that will help you, but that's what you're getting, and that's what you're putting it onto. It's going to go on, I guess, here in the crux area. So for step 17, the mounting hardware thing, that's what I'm guessing they want down there. I don't know. We'll find out later. Next thing is to remove another spring clamp from the connected fitting on step 5, which was this. And I think they're talking about this thing right here. It says get rid of the 90 and put the straight fitting on that we gave you. So I got to go back out into the storm and do that. Are you excited? I'm not. Alright, so this is the piece with the 90-degree connector. We're gonna take that off and put this straight one on that they provided to us. Okay, honestly, not too bad once you know what you're doing to pull the needle noses, or use the needle noses to pull it down, put it back over. I think we got it on there nice and snug. Let's move on to the next step. Alright, how exciting. The next step is to install that heat shield. We've got our hardware down there. Some hardware already mounted. So let's go do that funness. I apologize, this video sucks. The rain really did me in, but we've got that installed. Now it's time to put this coupler on. So this is obviously for when something like this has a bigger diameter than the old one had. So now you've got this step down. So that's going to be shoved onto there, and then these hose clamps are flat tip, whereas my old hose clamps here were Phillips head, so I just got to switch bits, but then we will be zippity zippity doo-dah, hippie bippy bop. Alright, next steps are going to be throwing in the new pipe and then reconnecting all this, the BOV and these vent line to injector fitting, and reconnecting that stuff. And I mean, we're basically out of here. So as the instructions tell you to do it, this piece is getting hella jammed into this. Like, I do not understand in what world they think you could feed this all together, like, and have that be a thing. I'm gonna double check to see if I'm missing something. But it says to put that on first, and then it says to just simply install the pipe. Well, I'll tell you right now, it doesn't fucking go in like that. So the best way to rectify that issue is to remove those mounting bolts and then slide it all in together. and then reinstall. All right, from here on out, basically, everything is just reinstalling. So we've got to get this guy onto the straight thing there. So we got to use that guy, and then we got this guy right here. It's got to go onto that, and then we got this damn thing right here that's got to go back onto the intercooler, filter, hood. We're just putting stuff together at this point. But we gave up last night. The storm and the situation was too much for me. But right here, I cannot get the new straight connector to go into that. And so what I need to do right now is I need to take this all out, take that back off, and I need to do a test fit and make sure that it even can work that way. All right, well, thank God, because if we take this off, right, and we just go to put it on, it will lock into place. Hard, but it locks in. So now the question is, do we put it back in and then just try to get... I have a much easier time with these going onto there than I do sliding that in. Is that maybe the play? I don't know. Hey, another thing just to be cautious of, I actually bent my pipe a little bit, tightening it down. I tightened it way too much. That's on me. That was stupid. Don't be me. Don't be stupid. Like I said earlier, I find it a lot easier to just undo the housing so that you can put it into here a lot easier. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to like give myself a better angle than I had last time. And right now I have that straight connector attached. And what I want to do is see if, I got the angle switched up now, and I think I can go, yeah. So what I'm gonna do here is I've already got the connector on. I think I'm gonna try to put the open end of the hose on, and then put the locking ring, and then I know it's secured. And like I said, I also changed the angle up a little bit here, kind of canting it out so that that stuff would go on there a little bit easier. So I'm going to do that now. Now we have that connected down there. I also reconnected that one from the this thing. And by the way, that one, so much easier to put on. But now all I'm going to do is remount the foundation and put the hose clamp onto that guy. So put these two lines back on, and then we've got this guy right here. That was this, and I got to get that back in there, and that's definitely going to be a nightmare. Also, I dropped one of my 8mm socket heads somewhere back there. Hope that doesn't cause a problem. All right, we got that spring thingy on, and now we just got to put this thing in here, and allegedly that is just going to get held on by a hose clamp. It has grooves for threading, but it doesn't thread, so yeah, it's just going to be a hose clamp. And remember to tighten, but not over tighten, and don't under tighten, and tighten exactly the right amount. I don't really like that this metal piece sticks out like that, but it's going to get covered up by a case. I thought about painting this piece to get like the exact coloring that I wanted, like maybe more purple, but I honestly think if I just throw the sticker in there, that will look pretty cool. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Put that sticker there. All right, and here is sort of the finished product of the main top housing piece. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Let's go install it. Hopefully we're done and this is going to be beautiful and all my dreams will come true and my wife will come back to me. All right, here's just another like rant. Why did they switch from everything being bolt heads to now it's Allen's? Now it's Allen's, and they didn't give me a fucking Allen, so now I gotta go upstairs and grab a new fucking Allen. Grab my Allen set. Why? Because you didn't Why? Why couldn't you just keep it one fucking kind of hardware so I could have one set of tools and do this fucking job? So it's a number 4 Allen. That's, you know, just for your own edification when you go to do this. That's what you'll be needing. All right, so I could not get the hex head bolt into the side here. Just could not do it. Spent over 45 minutes working on it. So I'm pretty sure it's secure in there. I'm just gonna fucking move on. All right, last thing is just shoving this piece of crap back in here. And once that is secured and in place, I tell you this, it was real easy to take out. How easy will it be to put back in?
Probably not easy at all, says Cookie Monster.
I don't know why I did a Cookie Monster voice. Okay, honestly, it wasn't very hard to put back in. Yeah, okay, cool. We're ready to test. All right, in sport mode, let's see how it sounds. No added cool air intake. Okay, that was 0 to 50. All right, we're gonna go out of the roundabout, and then there's gonna be cars in my way, so it's gonna be hard to get to 50, but we're gonna do it. And all right, here we go. All right, and I don't know about you, but I could hear a little bit of the turbo swirling, but maybe that's just me in the car. Well, I don't really think that those videos did it justice, but you definitely can, when you're driving, hear a little bit more. Honestly, was it worth going through what I had to go through? Getting it all together? I don't know, maybe. I mean, it does look cool, I think. Some things just to make a note of. For these mounting, I would definitely get a big extension for that 10 mil in the back there. That's still not very tight in the back, so I got to get an extension and really tighten that down. Obviously, don't over tighten your hose clamps. You can bend the pipe. I'm an idiot. I did that. I'm not the most mechanically inclined person. I promise I'm a good electrician, though. Yeah, I mean, if you ever have any questions about it, feel free to reach out on YouTube or Instagram. And, you know, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think.